and from the water. Don't be jealous. Good morning. I'm Jenna Wolf. This is Nick Wright. We got Eric Mangini and Doug Gottlieb joining us this morning. We've got a fantastic show for you today. Among these guys stopping by, James Harrison will be here, Alvin Kamara, Stefan Diggs, all coming in to talk Super Bowl. So get comfortable and let's talk some football, shall we? Super Bowl 54, now just 5 days away. The festivities began Monday when both teams met the media at Super Bowl opening night. The Chiefs, the 49ers, and all the storylines that come along with it. We're getting closer to game day, so Nick, we're going to dive right in, and I'll ask you, who is going to win this game?
So this is, to me, of all the games in these playoffs, the hardest one to pick. And Coach had been poking fun at me last week saying, Nick, we know where you're going with this. We know I've been on Kansas City all year. Kansas City was my preseason pick. I do happen to be from Kansas City. So for all those reasons, I get why you would think I'm leaning that way. But let me say something about the 49ers. They are an unbelievable football team. They're the best team in the NFC all year. They were not three games, 3 plays. A missed field goal against Seattle, a 4th down stop against Baltimore, and a Julio Jones, was he in, was he not in the final play of the game, away from being an undefeated football team this year. Their biggest weakness, ostensibly, is the passing game, but their quarterback was top 5 in completion percentage, touchdowns. He had a 102 passer rating, the number 2 scoring offense in the NFL. They have an absolutely terrifying front 7 and arguably a Hall of Famer still in the prime of his career playing corner. That's who the Niners are. Despite all that, Coach, I think the Chiefs win this football game, and here's why. Because the one thing the 49ers do not have, the one thing 31 other teams do not have, and the one thing the whole league's going to be chasing, I think, not just this Sunday, but over the next few years, is they don't have Patrick Mahomes. And he's playing the most important position in sports at the highest level it's been played in the playoffs, you could argue ever, certainly in recent history. And for that reason, and almost that reason alone, I think the Chiefs find a way to win because they got the best player on the field, and he is right now in quarterback God mode, and that's what I expect to see on Sunday.
You know, it's interesting. One, I agree with you, obviously, on Mahomes. He's remarkable. I remember getting ready for week 1 of the season last year, okay? And I'm actually going to watch games with a bunch of buddies, and a GM buddy of mine says, who's actually, he calls me, he's like, look, Mahomes is going to tear up this league. If you've been watching the preseason tape, he's going to tear up this league. And he has. But history is our guide. We have seen these great quarterbacks. I remember as a kid, John Elway coming in and finding a way to beat the Cleveland Browns, right? Just finding a way with the drive and then the fumble. And then he gets to the big game and he gets embarrassed. Not because John Elway stinks, because the rest of his team wasn't really Super Bowl worthy. And I do think that one of the other things we've learned this season is that who you play does matter in terms of your results, right? The Niners were remarkably dominant to start the year, as were the Patriots, but they were playing the bottom of the league. Look at who Kansas City has played to get here, right? They played the bottom 2 teams in the AFC in terms of what they did in the regular season, and they violated the cardinal sin of playoff football, which is don't get behind early. Now, they unleashed their nuclear weapon in Mahomes and that offense, and it didn't matter. But it will matter, I believe, against the Niners, who got the benefit not just of tanking and of finding a great young coach, but they also gave that great young coach an extra year to figure out exactly what did he want to do. And that extra year got him Deebo Samuel. That extra year got him Nick Bosa. And so I feel like between the coaching, the preparation, and basically the overall talent of San Francisco and the way in which they play is the magic elixir to this Kansas City Chiefs team. I think the Niners are just the better team. I think the Niners win the game.
Yeah, it was so interesting to hear Nick talk, and he had his 45 minutes where he set up all the reasons why the 49ers were insurmountable, but Superman was going to come in, and eventually he was going to win the day. And your point is a really good one, Doug, about playoff football and getting behind. To me, it's not just the getting behind part, it's the self-inflicted wounds. And I think that's the biggest thing that concerns me as you watch Kansas City. It's great what Mahomes has been able to do, but that magic eventually runs out. And when you spot teams enough of a lead, or you spot them enough mistakes, eventually time runs out no matter how good you are and how dominant you are at the position. And I love Andy Reid, and I really want him to win this game.
You're rooting for the Chiefs because of Andy.
I'm rooting for Andy because I like him personally, and I think that his career has been amazing, and this would be not validation, but it would be where it's supposed to be based off of the type of coach he's done. Now, when I go back and watch San Francisco, I see a lot of guys having moments, and I talked about this last week. In these big games, guys are going to have moments. They're going to have opportunities to define themselves one way or the other. And there's a lot of players on San Francisco. It's not just about Mahomes. It's other guys stepping up and finding ways to contribute in big spots. So for that reason, the long-winded answer, I'm going San Francisco.
Nick, are you concerned that the Chiefs seemingly, as you sort of set up, have one way to win, and that's Patrick Mahomes has to go out there and be great, while the Niners, if their defense doesn't step up, they've got the running game, they've got a couple other ways in which they can win. Does that concern you at all?
Yeah. Can you be fair to like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill? They're pretty good too.
Oh, of course.
Like I know he's really good.
No.
Those two guys are pretty good.
Those two guys are unbelievable. It's the best deep threat in football, and I think the best receiving tight end in football. I think this game has the two best tight ends in football. Agreed. But it's all part of the passing game. So, but to answer your question, Jenna, and they have a great coach, and they have an excellent offensive line, and Frank Clark and Chris Jones are really good defensive linemen. I'm not acting like they only have Patrick, but they do have Patrick. And your question is, am I concerned? No, because to use the Superman analogy, there ain't no kryptonite on the other side of the field. He is the best player in the sport.
The kryptonite, unfortunately, is on their side of the field.
Okay, well, listen.
And if there's any kryptonite on the other side of the field, that's when it starts to get insurmountable.
Things can go wrong.
Hold on. Again, history is our guide. The best offense we ever saw was the Patriots when they were 18-0 coming in this game. And you said, well, there's no kryptonite. What was it? It was the Giants pass rush. We talked all last week about Eli Manning was the MVP. No, he wasn't at that game. You watched that game. That game was won by the defensive line of the New York Giants.
That's a great...
And that's what the San Francisco 49ers do. They unleash the best pass rush. That's the perfect fit for if you're going to get behind and drop back and throw it 50 times, fine. Those guys are going to come and get you.
And it's a great point. And the last 6 teams to have at least 55 sacks that have played in the Super Bowl have all won the Super Bowl. I get all that. But that Patriots team, which is the analogy a lot of people use, that team peaked around week 10, and then we started to see a few creaks. They almost lose to the Giants in week 17. In the AFC Championship game against the Chargers, I believe it was, that offense was not elite. This Chiefs team's been the other way. This Chiefs team plummeted around weeks 4 and 5. Then Mahomes gets hurt. They lose the crazy game to the Titans. Have not lost since. And what they've done in their 2 playoff games, and we can say they're against bad playoff teams, but there are no bad playoff teams. They might be the weaker of the playoff teams. And it's not like the Vikings were some dominant force. The team the Niners had in that game is going on 51-7 and 35-7 runs. And you say, eventually those mistakes catch up to you. Maybe, or maybe they don't, because you score a touchdown every drive, you don't make a mistake. The Chiefs have had 18 drives of consequence in this postseason. 5 ended in drops. The other 13, 12 touchdowns, 1 field goal. When they don't make a mistake, they cash it in with 7. That's why I think they win Sunday.
Good news for us. We have 2 hours and 21 minutes left to keep talking about this, and we will, but now
our show's 3 hours long, so 2 hours and 51 minutes, but aside from that bang-up job on the math on the fly.
Yeah!
You are officially
starting off on the right foot. Nerd. Time now for Put It Great on It, sponsored by CarMax, and I thought about that for a long time.
Yeah, I saw you.
No, you did. Pat Mahomes has been great so far this postseason. It's undenied at 9 touchdowns, over 700 yards of offense. Nick, stop laughing for a second. Please put a grade on Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs.
700, you said over 700 yards passing.
I did that math,
They've played 2 games, so what's that? That's 600 yards passing a game, am I right, Jenna? What did John Nash get when he was writing all that stuff in A Beautiful Mind on the wall and he got the Nobel Prize?
He got the girl.
That's the grade of the girl as well.
Yeah.
That's the grade I give Patrick Mahomes. Top of his class, A+. He is in the midst of, statistically, just the best playoff run we've ever seen from a quarterback. 4 quarters away from completing it, A+. Doug?
Yeah, I mean...
Put a grade on it.
He's getting an A.
Okay. You seem so begrudging.
No, I don't know. I don't know what other grade there possibly could be. We didn't even mention the fact that he did it with his feet in the last game. Like, that was the game-breaking play. We talk about the passing numbers.
That touchdown.
It's that he does it with his feet. And, oh yeah, by the way, his feet inside the pocket behind the line of scrimmage where he's great in the screen game. Look, Pat Mahomes is going to be doing this, you know, barring some sort of catastrophe for the next 15 years. He is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And he's played up to his capabilities. And they built the perfect skill set, you know, obviously devoid of a run game since mid last year. It's an A for me.
Coach?
Yeah, it's an A for me, too. And what I like the best is the way that he's reading coverages pre-snap. And Tennessee tried to confuse him and tried to mix in a lot of different things, and he was able to process that so quickly. And I like how humble he's been. I like the traits that he's showing as he's getting all the success that he's having.
It was so much more fun when they had Alex Smith and they would collapse in the playoffs on a yearly basis. It was so much more fun then.
Good news. We have so many minutes left.